Dobson, and I was in the biology department, and I taught most everything in the biology department. General biology was my favorite. Human biology, my second favorite. Bio 102, my least favorite. Microbiology, nutrition, and that's it.
And what year did you start teaching at MCC?
1966.
1966. How did you hear about the college and the fact that they were searching for a biology professor?
Well, that's a very interesting question because I've been thinking about that, and I haven't the foggiest idea. I was in graduate school at Florida State in Tallahassee. I was coming to the end of my program. I was going to get my degree. And I was very eager to get back to Connecticut. So I'd started looking for teaching jobs on the high school level. And I had an appointment with Moodus High School or somewhere in that part of the state. And someone here in Connecticut told me that they were starting a community college system. Actually, I think I heard it as a junior college system, probably because I was in Florida, and Florida had the junior college system. So I figured that's a lot better than teaching in high school. I mean, I fled to graduate school because I had a horrible time student teaching in high school. I fainted. First day, I fainted. I fell off the chair. I got pulled out of line for cutting. It was dreadful. There was no way I was going to teach in high school. So I called somebody in Connecticut, and they sent me the information. And I applied to Manchester, Norwalk, and Hartford. And shortly after I had sent the application, Bob Fenn called. I was interviewed 3 minutes over the phone and hired.
So it was a phone interview?
A phone interview. Unheard of nowadays.
So when was the first time you set foot on the campus?
4 days before classes started. I came to meet up with Fred Lowe. His secretary, what was his secretary's name? His secretary thought I was a student.
Wilma?
No, it was a short lady who had the daughter.
Ruth Murray?
No.
Okay.
I'll think of it. But anyway, so I had to explain, no, I was a newly hired faculty member. And so they allowed me in, and Fred Lowe thought I was a student. So it was a rather inauspicious beginning. And of course, I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't get my driver's license until a week before school started, which was a traumatic experience for everybody. And that's how I began.
Now, where was the college housed at that point?
Manchester High School.
So was it late afternoon and evening classes?
Yes. Yeah. They started after the classes at the high school were over. I guess our first classes were 3:20, 3:30-ish, like that. And then we went until 10 in the evening.
How would you describe the student body back in the mid to late 60s?
I guess they were very tentative. They didn't know what to expect. Most of them were students who didn't do well in high school. We had no reputation. That is, the community college system had no reputation. So it was all tentative, people who didn't know what they wanted to do. They were willing to try. And it was, my memory is it was mostly high school kids, people who had recently graduated from high school. Now that changed rapidly once the community college system got established and we got the so-called non-traditional students, which made the experience for me. But I remember that first class meeting. I was as terrified as they were because I wasn't quite sure what to expect. And I went through 2 lectures in one class. I'll never forget the shock. I had to go home and write up a whole, because I had a class after that. It was supposed to be a lecture and then a lab, and we weren't having a lab on the very first day of the semester. So I had to whip up a whole new lecture. It was dreadful, absolutely dreadful. It's a wonder anyone came back the next week. So,
who were some of the colleagues that you worked with in those early years?
Bob Fenn, he was the head of the biology department. Fred Lowe, of whom I was fairly wary. We just didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. I can't remember who else now. Somebody in the English department who took me under her wing, sort of. I can't remember her name. That's interesting. I could find them in books now.
So you were obviously here when the college moved to the East Campus.
Yes, we first moved to Hartford Road, and then we moved to the East Campus. And I drove through, coming up here now. It was amazing. Nothing's there. It's all grass and stuff.
Just a lot of memories.
A lot of memories, yeah. Almost all of them good.
So what was it like to be involved teaching during the initial years of the community college?
It was incredibly exciting, more so in hindsight. We invented the system. I guess there were only four of us, four colleges then, Manchester, Hartford, Norwalk, and Winstead, whatever their names were at the time. And we all wanted to teach. Faculty meetings were exciting. We invented things. We decided what methods we were going to use. There was very little empire building. It was just a lot of fun. I got up in the morning. I could hardly wait to get here. This is really my only job.
Now, what year did you retire?
1999.
So you had approximately
33 years, right. And then one semester after that to get rid of my guilt.
Okay. What changes did you see over those 3 decades?
Well, everything became a lot more bureaucratized. Lots of empires or the equivalent, a lot of rules and regulations. Politics became, in essence, brutal, I thought. We went to unions. It was not happy. There were many times that were not happy. I think the state made a fundamental error in charging the community colleges with remediation. I think that was a horrible mistake. But I still like to teach.
Is there a single accomplishment that you could look back on, or maybe several accomplishments that come to mind? Something
Of the system or me?
Something that you personally are most proud of?
No, I just like teaching. I'm not sure, the gift of the community college system was to the older student, and to women especially. And that's what I think moved me the most. It's women, they've gotten divorced, they have children, they're not married. They had bought into the system that they were more or less doomed to whatever level they were at. And then they came here, and they found out they could study, they could get good grades, they could engage in the wonder of learning things. And that was wonderful for me.
Can you recall any particularly memorable experiences with students?
Well, we had some exciting field trips here on the the new campus, the upper campus, when people would fall into ponds, surprise snakes. There was one time we thought there was this mysterious beast in a tree. I had an insect net, and I used the handle to hit the trunk of the tree, and we hear this weird squealing and scrabbling noise, and so we're all looking up at the tree, and I hit the tree real hard, and this gray mass jumped right at me out of the tree. It was a squirrel, but we didn't know. We thought it was alien. So every single one of us screamed. One girl actually fell down. She fell over backwards. That was a nice time thing. But then we went to the Bronx Zoo one year. This was right after the Vietnam era. And every single male who had signed up for the trip chose to go to the nearest bar rather than the zoo. That was very frustrating. I lost someone in Boston when we went to the aquarium. That was very disconcerting. There were lots of things that happened as one expects over 33 years.
What do you think is the greatest accomplishment of the community college in terms of place in society?
Older students. It filled a niche. It made higher education available for those who would never, ever have gotten it. And I think that was a wonderful, and is a wonderful thing.
Okay. I'm going to mention a couple of names of people I suspect you worked with, and you may not be able to comment on all of them, but let's try Marsh Elmore.
Marsh Elmore, wonderful man, loved movies. I became very good friends with him and his family. In fact, I went to his daughter's wedding last summer up in Provincetown. Very, very nice. I mean, I spent lots of time. Marion Handley and I were good friends of theirs, and we would visit them in the summer and have wonderful times laughing. We would cry. It was just great. So he's one of a small group of very, very good friends that I had in the college. I don't have a family of my own, so MCC was my family. And in large families, of course, you like some more than others, and Marsh was one of those that you like a lot.
Anyone else who stands out?
Bob Richardson.
Oh, Doc Richardson.
Chuck Please. Marion Bianchi. Sam Shorey. Almost everybody in the English department. English was a second favorite of mine. There's lots and lots of good people that I worked with over the years.
What do you think are the qualities necessary for someone to possess to be a successful teacher?
You have to like people, and you have to like to teach. You can't put on airs. You can't. I mean, there have been several instances in my division of individuals who certainly were qualified on paper to teach, PhDs and what have you. They could hardly wait to get out of the classroom. They treated students with contempt. You really have to enjoy people, I think.
Okay. If you were talking to someone who was just hired to begin teaching at MCC this fall and had some advice to give that person, what would you tell them?
That's a rather open-ended question, isn't it? I don't know what the situation here is at the college anymore, as far as paperwork and that such. But I think be very open. On the first day of the semester, tell them exactly what they can expect, down to nitty-gritty things. Take the entire first class to do it, and make sure they understand that you are open to them always. Office hours, what have you, walking across campus. You have to be a team. You can't read minds, their minds. You can't figure out what problems they're having simply by looking at them, and you have to let them know that.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I do miss the teaching, but no, I think that's about it.
No humor?
No humor?
No stories?
Oh, stories. I've got stories. I'm the most embarrassing moment in class.
Yeah.
Well, in the lab building, there were labs and lecture rooms, classrooms, around a central supply area. And each of the classrooms had a door that went into the prep room. And it was the very first day of the semester, and I was always a nervous wreck first day of the semester, always. Bowel eructions, the whole bit. And so I had come in there very aware that I was going to have to give the proper impression. And I had left a pencil in the prep room I needed. So I excused myself, and I walked across the front of the room, through the door, into the prep room. Actually, I didn't walk. I rarely walked. I dashed. And as I went into the prep room, there was sand on the floor, and my feet slipped in the sand. My legs went right out from underneath me. I bounced off one of the shelving units and fell flat in my face on the floor. I got up and I said, oh, thank God I was in the prep room when that happened. Well, when I walked back out very sedately, I walked back out into the classroom, one half of the class was smirking. And it dawned on me that when I fell, my legs stuck out. So everyone, they heard this horrendous noise, and these two legs. So I turned red and pretended that it didn't happen. So there were always little things like that.
Any other stories or anecdotes?
Oh, that was, yes. One of the things that the college provided me the opportunity to develop was acting. I loved the theater. Chuck and company did lots of productions. I was in a handful or so. We had great times.
Had you done theater prior to coming to MCC?
No. Teaching, of course, is theater. Mm-hmm. So I think anyone who likes to teach can almost certainly get involved in any kind of theatric endeavor. But we had great times. And things on stage always have a way of not going the way they're supposed to. And I don't know if those stories are appropriate or not.
Sure.
But,
can you recall any particular memorable performances?
We were doing, what was it, Dracula. And I had the role of the attendant in the insane asylum, where one of Dracula's helpers was imprisoned. And I had the keys. And it said, and this is one point where the attendant, the assistant to Dracula, got loose. And the only way my character, could get him back was to entice him with blood. And so we had gotten a mouse, or a gerbil, some rodent, small rodent, and I had it in my pocket. And at the appropriate time, I would reach in. I would be speaking to the nurse. I would reach in and hold this mouse, and it would wriggle. And she would scream, and then the play would proceed from there. Well, by the third performance, the mouse got used to it. So it was time for me to reach in for the mouse, and I reached in, and it wasn't moving. So I was going like this, to make the mouse move so that the character would react. And of course, this was the audience over here, and everyone was kind of looking. So I hit it real hard, pulled it out, and there was this large yellow stain. And the poor student who played the nurse could hardly control herself, nor could I. If either of us had broken, it would have destroyed the whole thing. But that was one of the more funny moments. There's another part. I was supposed to pull out the keys. Say, I have the keys right here, and instead I pulled out my wristwatch. There was always something going on. I really, really, really enjoyed the theater thing. Chuck and Bob Richardson, both geniuses in their own right, browbeat me into singing. No one should have done that. That was not a pleasant thing to do to the audiences, but they did it. I'm glad I got it out of my system. I will never have to wonder what it would be like again.
Would you care to sing?
No, I would not. Thank you very much for asking, however.
I think that's about
Ça suffit?
I think this is
okay.
very lively, and it was good.
Good.
Your personality.
I could have thought of more funny things if I had thought about it, but I didn't. That was the theater thing was wonderful. Those then the bad times. The time with what's her name tried committing suicide. With the one in the Knack.
Oh yeah.
She fainted. And, we had some really interesting times there.
Any observations on the presidents over the?
You're not still running this, are you? We're not talking about Jonathan Dowby, are we? May he rot somewhere.
He was a significant part of this.
Right. Part of the history.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
20 years.
Dennison and Vincent.
I liked Bill Vincent. I liked Fred Lowe.
Okay.
Had my differences with him. Dennison scared me. I just didn't know where I was coming off with him. So, but I tended to not get. I think I tended not to get very political. Yeah. So.
There's a story about Lowe and you and teaching in Overlow.
Oh, that thing. Oh, well, actually, I thought of another funny story. The bane of my existence up until recent years has been the fact that I generally don't look my age. I mean, they thought I was a student when I started teaching in the high school. The janitors wouldn't open the doors for me. And part of our responsibilities, you had to be faculty advisors to various clubs and what have you. And the college went through a Greek period, fraternities and sororities. And they would have parties off campus, and if they wanted them sanctioned, they had to have a faculty advisor. So Frank Hounsel, me, and somebody else, can't remember who the third person was, we had to go to some place down in close to the shore for this party. And it's okay, we showed up, I drove down there and we're milling around, and the guys, they had gotten alcohol from somewhere, and these young kids were getting drunk as lords. I mean, they're falling down drunk on the floor in the men's room, they're throwing up, and I'm doing my best to help them, and this one guy comes in, and he says, you've been a real good guy. Oh, you're really good. He says, I'm gonna arrange for you to go upstairs. And I said, go upstairs? What do you mean, go upstairs? Well, they had arranged for 4 or 5 prostitutes to be up there, and that's when it occurred to me the guys would be drifting up and coming down. I didn't know what to do. Thank God this happened at the end of the evening. I don't know what would have happened.
So did you have to report that to the president?
I probably should have, but I didn't. I mean, I only learned about it when it was like less than an hour before the official time for the party to be over. And then early, in the first year we were on the lower campus, we had hired a part-timer. I mean, Fred Lowe was still around, was still president, what have you. We had hired a part-timer, a graduate student from UConn to teach the zoology class. And she was a disaster, and she had to be let go halfway through the semester. And so Fred asked, would I take the course and finish it? I said, of course, I'm not going to let the kids lose the credit for the course. So I did, and almost at the end of the semester, somebody on the faculty said, what are you getting paid to finish that course? I said, paid? I didn't know we were getting paid. So I stormed into Fred's office saying, you pay other people to finish classes like that? Why didn't you pay me to do that? He says, because I knew you'd do it. I was not a happy camper that day. But he was right. I was not going to let those kids lose the class.
So he didn't offer you a stipend
No.
retroactively?
No. No, he had a budget to... No. He said he knew I would do it.
I remember when Mary Ann Handley was interviewed, she talked about having to chaperone dances on the weekend.
Oh, the worst... Well, right, that was the worst dance was at Bolton Lake House. And that was in the late 60s, early 70s, and some kid grabbed the microphone, started telling people that they should push the cop out of the building so that they can get down to the real party. We thought the police were going to call the riot squad in. I was terrified of coming back to school the following week. Yeah, we had to do those. Oh, and I was the bowling coach. In order to have a bowling team, they needed a faculty advisor, and I was the coach. Now, of course, I looked like a student at the time. I had no idea how to keep score in bowling. I was terrified that they were going to call on me to keep score when we would go away to these tournaments. And MCC sponsored a bowling tournament. Nobody came, but we sponsored it.
Did you use those lanes on Spencer Street? Or
Yes, yes, yes.
Near Husbands.
Right. Yep. East Hartford there. Right.
So had you ever bowled before you became the...
No. They were the big balls too.
There's a lifeguard, too.
Oh yeah, that's the high school swimming pool. Again, every Tuesday night it was open swimming for the college, and they needed a faculty advisor. So I had to hire the lifeguards, interview and hire lifeguards, and then show up, open it and close it, and what have you. And that I enjoyed. That was a lot of fun, and a lot of faculty and their families came. The Quinlans came, the Dowds came, Marianne Roy and her family came. That was a good deal. I liked that.
So it seems like there was a great variety of extracurricular activities back then.
Oh yes, in the 60s, 70s, into the early 80s. Yeah, there were lots that I remember. Lots of clubs. I guess there still are lots of clubs.
Was there a biology club?
No, there was never a biology, any kind of science club that I could recall. I'm not sure why, but no, it never happened. What else? What else is worth recounting?
Well, I recall we used to be allowed to smoke in the offices.
Well, I never smoked.
Or at least Marcia Elmore.
Marcia Elmore. Right.
But I do very
oh yeah, there would be a lot of
distinctly
smoking.
remember there must have been a crackdown because at some point he started moving up to his little pacer. He had a pacer, and he parked it right at the top of the embankment. And he would sit.
Oh, pacer's a car.
Yeah.
I thought you meant how long he was going to be able to smoke.
No. It kind of had a glass dome, so you could see in it. He would smoke and grade papers sitting in the front seat of his pacer because he couldn't do it in his office any longer.
Yeah, he was in fact the east. I was in fact the west. Yeah. So.
All right. I think we've
milked it.
This has been a fun one.
Oh, really? Well, there's a lot of stories.
Toby Tamarkin,
Toby Tamarkin, yes. Time that she came in wearing a blouse which had one hand on here and one hand over here. She went to a faculty senate meeting.
Yeah, she had the purse with the fish in it.
Right.
She was rather flamboyant.
Oh, yes.
Her dressing.
Some of the other wonderful things that... The time that I was embarrassed, but I was glad because nobody saw it. You know, behind Faculty West, they had one of those big dumpsters, and I was looking for boxes. I don't know why I was looking for boxes, but I figured, people threw boxes away in the dumpster, and I couldn't get the little side door open, so I had to jump up on the lip of the thing and look in, and sure enough, there was a box. So I'm leaning in, and I couldn't quite reach it. So I leaned in a little bit more, and then I still couldn't reach it. So I figured if I just do a little bit more, and I went that 1/4 inch too far, and it was like the Titanic. Inevitably, I started going down into the thing. Fortunately, nobody saw me. It was dreadful that day.
Do you remember Hugh Edmondson?
Hugh Edmondson. Of course I remember Hugh Edmondson. Yes, very, very talkative man.
There was a good sense of the spirit in that lower campus.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It really was a lot of fun.
The open windows and just...
Right. Although, I mean, those buildings gradually deteriorated more and more, and every other spring we would have the termite swarms. I would have to go dashing over to make sure windows were open and to collect specimens of that year.
Do you remember the happy hours in Lois Ryan's office?
Lois Ryan's happy hours, yes. Very nice time. And the secretaries, Rachel, Jan Christensen, Rachel Michaud, Jan Christensen.